Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Morales. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is about the ups and downs of dating and how to navigate through it. Today, my guest is Wendi Dumbroff. Wendi specializes in training in family and couples therapy, which she obtained through a postgraduate program at the Ackerman Institute for the Family in New York City. In her 4 years at Ackerman Institute, she learned how to work with families and couples through intensive supervision, didactic learning, and working with clients. She was very fortunate to have the opportunity to learn from and be mentored by some of the best and most well known therapists in the fields of family and couples therapy. So, Wendi, thank you so much for being on People on Dating again. I had you on a couple of months ago. We had a great time. We were talking about more about mindfulness and meditation. Today's topic is a good one. It's about sexual connection. Anyway, Wendi, first of all, again, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you
And
for having me back. Thank you so
no,
much.
listen, it's my pleasure. So, again, tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get here to today? You're a licensed professional counselor. You have your own private practice, among other things. You're like a Renaissance woman. You do it all.
I don't know about that, but my journey is I was a stay-at-home mom full time, two young boys. Decided I was going to fulfill the dream, go back to school. Um, in my training, there's a certain number of hours you have to do when you get out of graduate school. And I had a mentor, a supervisor who had been trained in couple and family therapy at the Ackerman Institute. So I followed in her footsteps and went there. And I found that working with couples, there's just so much around sex. And so I did another postgraduate program in learning sex therapy, and then I also did postgraduate work in in being certified as a mindfulness meditation teacher.
Mhm.
And uh, and mindfulness is something, I use it personally in my own life. And I apply it to my therapy across the board, but it's certainly useful in the sexual realm.
No, I can imagine. And today's topic is about sexual connection and all that. So, Wendi, in today's modern dating, I don't know if what you see out there, but what I see in terms of when I read articles or I see other podcasts, it seems more of a hookup culture now
Mm,
where women, especially the younger women, might meet someone to have a connection, and all of a sudden within a day, one date or two dates, now they're sleeping together. Where I remember when I was younger, and I talked to guys, you court a woman, you take them out for a few dates, and then you hope if it is a sexual connection, it goes to the next level. Are you
right.
seeing that too, more of a hookup culture, or it depends obviously on the age, on the generation?
I guess, gosh, I'm just trying to sort of sift through all the generations of people that I see. I think sex is definitely more casual today for younger folks than it was when, I mean, I'm in my early 60s, so
Mhm.
I was in high school in the 70s and, college in the 80s. And it's not that sex wasn't out there, because Lord knows it was, but it's much more casual today. And yeah, so there is a hookup culture. There is much more of a friends with benefits culture. There is, women are free to say, hey, I like sex too. And so I wanted to go out and have a date, and I felt like having sex. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do. So I'm talking about younger generations now, but the younger, it's been that way for a while. I
Yeah.
think I feel like it was that way even when I was in graduate school back in the early 2000s. So, there was a big shift. So it's not just young people now, because those people that were in graduate school, then, or the younger folks then, and the trend was already in place. So they might be in their 30s, 40s, or even approaching 50s now. So where sex was a little more casual, more, I guess what you're saying is hookup culture, more accepted. The hookup culture was more accepted.
Right.
And perhaps that comes as women are allowed to acknowledge that they enjoy pleasure as well.
Yeah, no, no, and that's understandable. So, Wendy, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, when two people meet, right, or you talk to this, whether they're friends of yours or your husband or whoever it may be, um, what drives that sexual connection? Is it something to do with, can it be physical? Can it be the mind? Can it be a combination of both? How does
Oh,
that, yeah, go ahead. I can see you
yeah,
chomping at the bit.
all of that, right? What drives any connection? You meet a person, you think, oh, I just feel a little like I'm not vibing with this person. I'm not even talking about an intimate connection, right? You're maybe just have a friend, introduces you to a friend and you just get a feeling, like, ah, this person is not really for me. And it's a great question though, is when it is intimate partners or you're searching for an intimate partner. Because I always ask people whether it's just straight couples therapy or couple and sex therapy, but what attracted you to this person? How did you meet? I find out their love story. How did you
Mm,
meet? And what attracted you to this person? And then what made you want to deepen the relationship with this person? How did you know this person was for you?
right.
And a lot of times I hear initially, oh, I thought he was cute. I thought she was beautiful. Look at her. She's so beautiful. Or like, oh, he was like this really, friendly guy. An initial attraction sexually is hopefully there underlying because because we don't want to engage in a relationship with someone that we don't feel sexually attracted to, right?
Right.
Because that's part of the relationship. Um, but it's generally not what makes people want to deepen the relationship. It's I've never heard from anyone, well, we just had the best sex in the world, and so I had to marry him or her. Right. It's usually what made you beyond that initial attraction, beyond that, well, we just were like-minded. Oh, he was so funny. She was so smart. I love the way she cared about like animals and people. Really, people look at the other's qualities beyond sexual connection when they're really looking for a partner. I don't know if I'm exactly answering your question.
No, no, you are, you are.
Yeah. But what makes, two seasonings go well together? Like what makes cheese and tomatoes go well together, right? It
Yeah.
works, it blends. And so, you know, it's very individual. It's very individual. And then sometimes you can find somebody very attractive, and then as you get to know them, they become much less attractive because you don't like the person that they are.
Yeah, I've heard stories like that from female friend of mine's where they meet a guy and they say, "Oh my God, he looked like a Greek god," but as soon as he opened his mouth, I was like so turned off.
Yeah.
And even for some men, I mean, they might put up with the bimbo, so to speak, but eventually that ends up getting old. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I see, for me is social media.
Mhm.
Now, where women are out there, they're posting pictures of themselves and things like that on Instagram and TikTok. I don't have TikTok, but I have Instagram. And I see where women are, dressing a little bit more sexual,
Provocative. Yeah.
provocative, yeah, sexual and things like that. Um, are they inviting the bad guy uh to make the move instead of the nice guy. Well, not let's say not the nice guy, but the guy that they might prefer instead of the guy that they don't prefer making the move. Does my question make sense at all?
Yes, your question makes sense. If you're not reading my face, it's because I'm kind of thinking about that. Uh, I, I, cou- I, I could not give you a answer to that question because I don't know what's in each person's head. I
Right.
will say that unfortunately, because, you know, I not unfortunate that porn is out there, but porn is out there. But what happens is that I think not only men are influenced by that and think women should be a certain way, but
Yeah.
women are influenced by that too. So
Mm,
a lot of times I think maybe younger women think, oh, I have to come across as this, like that's what sex is, that's what intimacy is, that's what a man wants. And and so they maybe that feeds into it. It's just
Hmm.
one avenue. I'm not saying that's it for everybody. Maybe some women just want to feel sexual and feel
Right.
sexy, and that's how they feel sexy. And so without I'm sure if we had a room full of women on Instagram who had sexy, provocative, alluring photos up,
Yeah.
each of them would give a different answer, and maybe somewhat overlap. So I don't know if they're inviting the bad boy. I don't know if they think that's what they should be. Maybe some people are inviting the bad boy because that's what they want. Maybe
Right.
um that's such a subjective thing that I put no judgment on people for how they express themselves. And I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm comforting because I don't have a direct answer for that question. I think there's so many things that go into those choices and those decisions.
Yeah, no, fair enough. One of the things for me, and I only seen one couple that I know of. I can't say I've seen more of it where a man might end up in the friend zone and then get out of it.
Uh-huh.
Personally, I believe that once you're there, you're there. You can't get out. That's just my
Uh-huh.
opinion. I could be wrong. So I want
Okay.
to talk more about that, Wendy. What do you think about that? Once you end up in the friend zone, you don't give your attentions or whatever, or you're scared to give your intentions to the woman because you might lose the friendship somehow. But then now
Yeah.
you end up in the friend zone and she doesn't see you that way anymore. Can someone get out of the friend zone?
Um, I think people can get out of the friend zone if both are willing. I think that
I think the man will be. Does the women uh, want to
what
get want that guy out of the friend zone? Yeah.
yeah, ever want the guy out of the so you're saying once a couple has been like intimate, like they've been boyfriend, girlfriend, they break up and then they're friends.
No, no, I'm talking about before that. I'm talking about
Oh, before
you
that.
meet someone and then
Oh,
you don't give your intention to the woman that, hey, I like you more than a friend.
ah,
You're afraid to say anything. So
oh,
now she sees you only like a brother or
oh,
a bestie or whatever.
right.
That's what I mean, getting
Yes.
into the friend zone. And in my
I
opinion, I know
I
one couple because the woman told me, and they're in their late 20s, early 30s, and he must have done something. I can't remember the whole story. In fact, I had a matchmaker on, and she
oh
said
wow.
that she was friends with someone, and somebody had mentioned to her that her roommate was kind of hot, and
Uh-huh.
when she said that to her, she looked at
Uh,
him differently. That's what I'm
ah,
saying. Is
okay.
that possible that someone could get out of the friend
Yeah,
zone?
I think that's absolutely possible. I've worked
Okay.
with couples that definitely got out of the friend zone. I absolutely think that's possible. I think sometimes people might hesitate because they don't want to ruin the friendship. They worry about ruining this wonderful friendship they have with someone. So they don't want to jeopardize that because, oh, what if we get together as an intimate couple and then we break up and then there's all that awkwardness or we're mad at each other and they don't want to lose the friendship. But I've definitely worked with people, couples where they had been friends and then it changed. People where like they maybe worked together for many years and then their status and they were friends and then their status as being single or
Right.
versus married changed and they ended up seeing somebody in a new light. Yeah, so I definitely think that that can change. I've seen that more than once, and I think there's songs about that. I think there's
I
people have
definitely gotta
written.
look for those songs then.
I think there's like a Kenny Loggins song, and I can't remember which one, but I'm pretty sure there's songs about that out there too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I I think if you do state your intention at the beginning, it's possible that at least you letting her know, or
Yeah.
him, vice versa too, that hey,
Right.
I see you more than just a friend and all that. Now it's up to them. But like you said, also, do you want to damage the friendship? So I think because I've been there where I didn't want to damage the friendship and will it be awkward and all that. But sometimes I say to myself, wow, that could have been, in fact, I have said that was a lost opportunity. I should have tried, but now it's too late because I don't feel the same anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so when you're going back to sexual connection, and we're talking with Wendi Dumbroff, and today's topic is about sexual connection. So Wendy, what are some of the things, or maybe some steps that you might have, or maybe suggest for a man or a woman uh, to develop that sexual connection, if there's such a thing?
Yeah. So do you mean, Will, that if they are um coming to me because they've lost that sexual connection kind of
Sure.
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that certainly is that's actually a very common reason. People will come. Sometimes they have a great friendship and partnership, co-parents, roommates, they live well together, they are friends, they like each other, but there's just no sex.
Hmm.
Sometimes the relationship is all jumbled and there's a conflict or there's distance and there's also no sex. And
Yeah.
and sometimes there's great sex, but the relationship is in tatters.
Right.
And sex is good because that's the only I've had people say to me, if we didn't have sex, we wouldn't connect at all. So that's the only way they know how to connect. But your question is about how do we help them to
Yeah.
have better sexual connection? And so, what I do when a couple comes with that issue is I do sexual histories with each of them because you
Hmm.
want to find out like what's changed, what's getting in the way, what was your sexual connection like before? Was it always like this? Sometimes people come in and they say, well, it was like a little better, but it really never was this great sexual connection to begin with. Um, what happened, or sometimes it was good, but over the years it just sort of dwindled and then they feel like strangers. So what happened? What else was happening at that time? I do sexual and relational histories with each person and I do them separately,
Hmm.
because I want people to be able to be as honest as they feel they can be, or share as much, and sometimes they may feel they can share more without their partner there. And the way I do that is always, whether it's just couples work or couple or sex therapy work with couples, is whatever, as long as the couple both agree, whatever happens in individual sessions is private to the extent that they tell me that it's private. And as long as they both agree and know that I might hold a secret about something that they don't know about their partner, then that's the way I prefer to do it. But so I really look at what are the messages they got about sex in their family, in their culture, through their church or synagogue or mosque or where, whatever, or in their community. Um, and what are their experiences around sex? What are have they ever, specifically looking for any experiences of shame? Did they ever feel shamed around sex, which can certainly inform a person's sexual being and the way they think about sex as they get older, right? What are their early experiences? What are their other experiences through through the lifespan with sex, and how do they understand the change? And there's one big concept. It's going to sound so like simple, but it comes out of all this research from Canada. Um, it's called willingness, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes women do in long-term relationships, it's been shown that women can lose desire. But the idea is that you don't necessarily have to begin with desire. You can begin with willingness, and then responsive desire follows. So it's like you haven't had sex in a while, you're tired, whatever, the kids all day, this, that, there's too many other things,
Work and things like that. Yeah.
work, I'm exhausted. Oh, like, the last thing I want to think about is being active in bed, right? A- and there's willingness. Can I engage even though I'm not in the mood? And then, oh wow, this actually feels good. This is why I ever wanted to do this in the first place, right? This feels nice. And so the simple concept of willingness can be, you know, a revelation for or both for people. Um, and and I think it's also important beyond just that is to look for what are the blocks that are there. And that the idea that sex does not have to end, that intimacy does not have to end in, penetrative sex. And we're being very
Yeah.
heterosexist here. We're talking about heterosexual couples, but that doesn't even have to end in orgasm. It can end in pleasure. It can end in just feelings of connection. It can end in emotional closeness. It can end in just because we're saying, oh, that's enough for now. We're
Yeah.
good, right?
Yeah.
That sort of expanding people's definitions of sex, especially as people get older and things in the body change, and men may have problems getting erections, so penetrative sex might not even be possible. Men who've had diabetes, lifelong diabetes often have that problem, but many men have that problem, even if they're not diabetic.
Mm.
They have trouble as they get older achieving or maintaining an erection. But there's a lot of ways to bring pleasure to a partner, and to be intimately close to a partner. Um, so redefining sex and is also very important.
Uh,
Expanding my one of my mentors in the sex therapy field, her name is Suzanne Iasenza, and she defines sex. Her definition of sex is the best I've ever heard. She defines it as anything you wouldn't do with your neighbor, with your neighbor.
okay.
Yeah.
Anything you
So
would do with your neighbor. Okay.
yeah. So if you have a couple that's just laying in bed together and caressing each other and touching each other's bodies, that's something, I'm not doing with my neighbor. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, because depending on who you talk to, but um, it seems that foreplay is such a big thing in a relationship at least at the beginning and probably throughout the relationship because you're feeling like you said, you're touching, you're feeling each other's body and all that. Is that become a lost art form that maybe some men are not in tune with in your studies or maybe in your
yeah.
therapy sessions or talking to whoever you may talk to that foreplay that men don't initiate it enough now?
I would say that depends. Depends on the couple, depends on it really does. And, I think also it's important for partners to ask for what they want, to be
Mm,
able to talk about it. And sometimes my office or any sex therapist's office becomes a place where people can really begin to talk about what their needs are. Well, hey, I really miss when you used to massage my body, for, 10 or 15 minutes and that got me aroused, or I really miss some of the foreplay we used to do, or I'd like to or we never kiss. And I'd love to, we do all this stuff, but we never kiss. And I love kissing and I miss kissing. So one of the things I do with couples is I'll have them each create like a sexual menu,
mhm.
things that they'd like to incorporate into their intimacy, and anything at all, like from taking a walk, holding hands, taking a bath together, maybe reading erotica, anything they could think of, from the most vanilla to the kinkiest thing. Just because things are on a menu doesn't mean we want to taste all of them. I'm sure we've all
Right.
seen plenty of things on the menu, be like, oh, I don't want that, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Are men afraid to ask a woman what she wants in the bedroom? Can that be it? Because I remember talking to a friend of mine years ago, and she said that she expected a man to know what a woman wants, and I'm like, but every woman is different. So I'm thinking that's part of the communication is saying
Yeah.
something to the woman, like, hey, what is it that you like? What don't you like? And all that. Maybe
Vice versa.
some, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and vice versa. I was
Yeah,
gonna say, and women to men, right? The same
yeah,
thing. To be able to have those discussions and talk about it, and yeah, be open about it. This is what I love when you do this. And that could vary from time to time. It's not
yeah,
like I'm giving you the formula, do this every time, because maybe the next time you have a different formula.
yeah.
Um, and you don't even know what it is.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. Well, first of all, Wendy, I want to thank you so much for being on People on Dating. This was definitely a good subject to talk about. Anything you want to talk about more or promote? Any upcoming talks, TED
Yeah.
Talks? You know,
Oh gosh, I wish I was that important that somebody came to me with a TED talk, but no, I have my private practice. I have a
talk more
website.
about that. Sure.
Yeah, no, I see individuals, couples, some couples it involves sex therapy. I see couples of all, I welcome all gender expressions, all sexuality, and I know oftentimes, end up talking in a very much about heterosexual couples, but I work with and respect uh all forms of gender and sexual expression that people have. Yeah.
No, sounds good. And if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way?
Probably my website is wendydumbroff.therapy.com, and it's Wendy with an I at the end.
Yeah, I'll put
Uh,
that on the show notes. Well, first of all, Wendy, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to
oh,
people on dating. I really, really appreciate it.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me back. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Thank you. Bye bye.